How's it going, guys? Kavi here. Today I wanted to go over the patch notes for the new Whispering Mist season for Torchlight Infinite. They haven't done the reveal yet on what the league mechanic is going to be, but there's still a lot to cover in the patch notes themselves for what they're adding, even without getting the full context of what the actual league mechanic is going to be. First things first, it looks like the new hero that we are getting for this season is going to be Cat Eye Erica Lightning Shadow, and they are giving us some new gear and some new pack spirits as always. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. First thing, it looks like they have added a activation medium, which is going to be some new support skills, which will auto trigger skills basically that you can get from the new league mechanic. So think of these as new support gems. Similar to basically what we just had with Path of Exile, with them adding the automaton supports. It looks like there are some specific tiers of these that you can unlock so that you are triggering them on specific effects or specific trigger criteria, I guess you could say. So as you see here, there's some that will trigger whenever there's elites nearby, or trigger at a specific time, but only for specific skills. And then we have triggering on elites, triggering on bosses, triggering whenever you're taking, whenever your life is below a certain point. Same thing for ES, severe injury, multi-strike, demolisher. So it looks like they're giving us a lot of flexibility to basically really play some multi-button builds for those of you that are playing on mobile. You will be able to have a huge bonus with this, be able to actually play builds that require multiple buttons without, having to actually hit those multiple buttons on mobile. So this should alleviate the amount of buttons that people are having to hit playing, or, require them to not be using something like Exquisite Box or something like that, or be forced to just only play these one button channeling skills. So this should be really, really nice. Let's see, activation medium rhythm. Um, What does this one say? Trigger the support skill on the nearest enemy within 20 meters. During the trigger interval, for every 1 meter moved, the next skill triggered by the support skill deals more damage. Supports active skill that can deal damage. So it's triggering. That one's weird, I guess. This one is triggering more damage every time. I guess it's just triggering an attack on the nearest enemy every however many seconds. But it's gonna be interesting to see what this is like. It does force the skill to be trigger only, but this should still be really, really good. This kind of like forcefully just turns everything into like a cast well channeling skill, kind of, right? I think from how I'm interpreting this, but we'll see. Same thing with this auto movement here. Every whatever amount of time. These should be interesting. The real thing is, like, a lot of these, I feel like if they sound like they're too good, they're probably going to be rarer and harder to get. But either way, I like the direction and the addition of them, because it does mean that we can just be running with less buttons if we want to run a little bit different supports, or if we want to take like a little bit of inefficiency in our supports in order to have less buttons to hit. I'm all for it for the game. I think it's good. Yeah, it looks like they have triggers for basically everything, every different skill type, and they have the specific limitations for each one, so they don't want any one of them to be better than the rest. Or like be a standout and be too good, I guess you can say here. When hit by a critical strike from supported skills. So I presume this means when the supported skill hits with a critical strike, then you'll get some extra command at a certain interval. Let's see. Issue a command for every 2 layers channeled. So this is like when channeling a support skill. I don't know what this does. When channeling a support skill, because this has to be on the, I guess this is just on the channeling skill, and then you, yeah, I'm not sure how this one works yet. We're gonna have to basically figure that one out, but we'll see. So as you can see here, they added the new Cat Eye Erica Lightning Shadow. It looks like the base effect for her is that for every 1 meter moved, the next main skill will guaranteed do a shock status on the enemy. But when you inflict shock on the enemy, you will also shock yourself. And then the duration of shock status applied to you is doubled. And when you receive shock damage, the value is equal to your base shock damage. So there's going to be some balance here that you have to play. With running her, it looks like you can't be shocked by anything else other than your own abilities, though, which is good. And then you do have reduced shock damage taken. And then for every level, you are getting some base shock damage. You do have some tons of movement speed, though, while being shocked. And then you get a lot of additional damage based on your movement speed. So it's still leaning into the typical Erica of get as much movement speed as possible, get a ton of damage because of your movement speed. But it looks like you're getting a lot of damage that you're going to be dealing to enemies, but then you're going to have this like shock thing, so you're going to need a decent amount of life gain on hit, something like that most likely. But let's go ahead and read these other ones. It does look like here with the levels on the traits here that they did adjust the traits to be at different levels now. So you get the first trait at 25 now, and then we have 25, 45, 60, 75, and 90 is the last trait now instead of being level 80. So that's a change. I'm curious as to why they changed that. I did like getting the first trait around 13. I feel like a lot of builds already get like a nice little power jump there, but guess we'll have to see how it feels when we actually get to play it. So it says when you're in a shock state, the highest shock damage applied on hit will be recorded by feline figure until the shock state is lost. When in shock state, there's a 30% chance to trigger feline figured on up to 3 enemies upon hitting the 0.5 second cooldown. And then when it deals shock damage, it does not consume shock resolution counts, nor does it record the corresponding shock damage of the shock state it applies. Okay, so it can't like perpetually keep triggering itself, but it let's see, 10 instances of shock damage. Okay, so feline figure is gonna basically deal 10 instances of shock damage. So this is kind of like a, almost is going to feel like an explosion type thing that it's going to do with it hitting 3 enemies with the highest shock damage. Basically, you're going to total have on there, and it's going to take 10 instances of that, and it's just going to basically pop all of them without actually popping them. So you basically should be like guaranteed killing these 3 mobs because you're going to be getting like a ton of like damage off of this. When in shock state, attacks and spells gain added lightning damage with a maximum value equal to 10% of your base shock damage. Maximum value equal to 550. Why is this saying it? How are you getting this up to 550% of your base shock, I guess is the question. Is this based on how many shocks you have on you? Oh, never mind. So yeah, because the total, you have a base shock damage value, and every time you are shocking things, you're also stacking more shock damage on you. That's like pending, because you're shocking yourself more. So it's saying you can only get this up to upwards of 550% of your base shock damage, no matter what. Still a lot of extra added damage, and then same thing here. We have recently feline figure deals additional % max damage for every 2 instances of shock damage up to a maximum of 50. So if you're playing a build where you're just, again, your typical attack build where you're hitting a ton of times, or even a spell build where you're hitting a ton of times, you'll be able to get a ton of extra shock off of this, or a ton of extra damage. And then non-lightning damage gains an additional 110% max damage, but suffers minus 90% reduction in minimum damage. Guess that's a little bit of a damage boost for... I presume this is going to work with conversion, so whatever your physical stuff is before you convert it to lightning or to whatever, should go through this process first before it gets converted. So that'll be nice. I'm not sure. I think most people, electrified flash will probably just end up being what ends up getting taken, just because it's it can probably equal more. I guess it'll depend on whether it's a build that's going to be hitting a ton of times to where you actually can get this 550%, or if it's like a smaller max hits where you just want that pushing this max here that you can get. We have flashing sparks. You click on the trait skill, and for the next 1.5 seconds, accumulate 1 charge stack for every 2 meters moved, up to 20 after 1.5 seconds, or when the charge stacks reach upper limit. Gain the corresponding electrify stacks, which last 10 seconds. It's automatically activated while moving. So this gives you an extra 20 base shock for feline figure. That doesn't... It sounds low, but I guess we'll see. I feel like it's not as low as it's saying here. Maybe they mean 1 additional shock instance or something. Like, instead of it being 10 instances of shock damage, I wonder if this is increasing it up to basically 30 instances of shock damage every time you do feline figure. But we'll have to actually see in game, because this just obviously being 20 extra damage doesn't make any sense. Like, it sounds wrong. It's probably just a bad translation. On hit, feline figure will no longer be triggered. When in shock state, there's a 30% chance to trigger feline figure every time you move, with a 0.5 second cooldown. So instead of it being on hit, you'll trigger feline figure on movement. And then for each instance of shock damage dealt by feline figure, the enemy will take an additional 8% damage on the next hit, with a maximum up to 320. Which, yeah, this would be consistent with this being extra 20 stacks of shock damage done, because this would be, what, 30 stacks here, or whatever it is. I guess that would be up to 40 stacks. Because this is saying that feline figure can do up to 40 stacks, which would be 8% additional damage for each hit. So there is a way to get up to 40 stacks of shock, basically instances hit by feline figure here. Then we have static meteor. You will also take shock damage from feline figure. For every 2 instances of shock damage taken, gain more movement speed and an additional 1.5% damage, stacking up to 200 times. But you will take 90% reduced shock damage. I'm trying to think about this again. This is really going to come down to whether or not the builds are hitting a lot or moving a lot. My initial instinct is that lightning fast is going to end up being better, because it doesn't rely on you having like permanent uptime on the bosses and stuff all the time. You'll be able to just hit a few times and then you can basically run around and trigger feline figure, but we'll have to kind of play it and see what it's like. And we have wild lightning here. Maximum lightning resistance is fixed at 40%. On hit, gain 3% of the hit damage as base shock damage. For every 1% lightning resistance exceeding the upper limit, gain an extra 0.3% of the hit damage as base shock damage up to a maximum of 20%. That's going to be big if there's a way to convert the lightning damage you're taking to something else. I don't recall if there is. I'll have to look over the uniques that are in the game. But it at least sounds interesting. It's something that could potentially be played with, so that's kind of fun. And then Lightning Walker here. For every 5% movement speed, plus 1 shock count upper limit, up to, and plus 2% maximum shock damage recorded by feline figure. an additional plus 3% shock duration, stacking up to 40 times. So, yeah, I guess this is the one, how you're getting the feline figure shock count increased. Maybe, or is this still just increasing your base shock count? Again, these are a lot of these things. When it comes to the translations, they're nice to get like a good feel of what things are probably going to be like, but you just need to actually get them in game to really know. Looks like we got some new legendaries here. I'm not really going to go over these. Let's go ahead and just get a cursory glance over this. I will post the link to the patch notes as well to kind of look over these, because going over the uniques can take quite a while sometimes. So we'll go ahead and take over on that. Let's see. The Demolisher charges. Let's see. This one could be good for anyone playing like Rosa, something like that. With that normal Demolisher build, you are losing movement speed originally, but because you're always like consuming Demolisher charges on that, you should be getting this. Should be an overall movement speed increase, but you know, you're always giving up another slot in order to run this. This Clay Doll's Broken Finger sounds like it's going to be good at first, but it does make your enemies immune to ailments. So I think this might be something better for base Gemma if you're using like the Flame Jet, since the damage isn't really based on the Ignite. You can't really use this on Frostfire or on Frostbitten Gemma, because obviously you cannot freeze them anymore if you're using this. So it doesn't work for that. I guess Gemma 3, maybe. I don't remember the exact mechanics on how she works with Haunting Abomination, but I thought that's just a bunch of Ignite damage, so I don't really think that works either. Let's see. Some extra blur effect. That's actually a lot of blur effect. And you automatically gain blur whenever you lose blur. A lot of damage based off of blur rating. I could see this being really good. Because stacking blur effect is one of those things that's just like turns any endgame build or any build period. That's how you get start to get to some really extreme levels of very strong defense layers with blur effect. So I see this ring being very good. When equipped with a magic ring, 2% damage over time for every one blur rating. So on average, your blur rating is going to be like 50 unless you have abilities to constantly keep it at 100, which there are ways to do, which kind of makes the damage that you get off of this be equal to what you'd get off of another ring. So definitely going to be worth considering. We'll have to check the balance on this to see. Yeah, I expect this to be used, though. I expect to be using this myself, so we'll see here. Air Treaders, we get less ground skill duration, more movement speed while on a ground skill, but less movement speed overall. So I guess if you're using like a Castwell channeling where your ground skills are always going to be under you all the time, you'll always be at what, plus 50% movement speed. Obviously, because you're giving up a lot for that compared to just normal boots, so you can get up to 60% or 50%. They might be good early, something like that, but I don't really see them being that used that much. We'll see. Movement speed fixed at 130%. That's kind of nice. Again, these are sound like some leveling boot type stuff for early uniques. Nothing crazy. Dexterity fixed at 750. So this is gonna just make your dexterity 70-50. That's kind of cool. Like a good early game before you can kind of get into your end game dexterity build transition. That's kind of nice. We have some extra projectiles here. I'm not sure on this. I don't play enough of these builds to know. Additional lightning damage for attacks with this build. When your offhand is empty. So this is like the equivalent of like White Wind or something? Is that what this is for this game? So kind of what this sounds like. Combo lightning on attack. I don't know what combo lightning is. So We'll have to see, I suppose. These jumbling ice prototypes, let's see. Wherever stuck would build it. So this is like old gem. This is sounds like a lot. There's like no downside to this, I guess. It's hard to say with the weapons because you can get some really crazy weapons nowadays too. More base shock damage. This might work with the new Erica pretty well. I don't remember what Euphoria is. I know there's Euphorias on hit, but I don't know what Euphoria specifically is here. These prototypes, again, these might be crazy rare as well, so it's hard to basically like, oh yeah, these are great. These are definitely something people are going to want to use, but they might not really drop like at all. Let's see here. Deflection, you get a lot of less damage taken up with you have deflection, and then lightning res equal to your erosion resistance. If boots are equipped. Oh, so you have to wear no boots in order to wear Legless Bird's Lament. Okay. Interesting. So, I don't know. Someone will find a way to use these things. They seem like you can make something crazy with them. So, I like where they're going with it. Someone will be able to build something. We'll be able to look over some uniques and kind of see what combinations we can get to maybe we can get something to be the Legless Bird. Then we have Forlorn here, which is going to give you, you have to be pure armor, but you're going to get some extra damage for pure armor builds. Here. So, what do we got here? 2 growth points when minions critically strike. Let's see. Extra damage for your minions for when you are channeling. So I guess for those that are using, just running around with train builds with minions, this could be good for like the... This seems good for potentially... I think this would be good on the train Iris build. Because that's a lot of spell burst speed. And then a lot of additional spell bursts. So, yeah, I could say that being pretty good. They have added these sets into the build, or into the game. I don't know how these are going to work, because again, it's like, they seem like they're pretty nice, but like, you're giving up 6 pieces of gear to gain these things. So this might be something, again, that's good early, before you transition into like proper gear, but I don't want to get too fixated on these, because again, wearing a 6-piece set of gear is you're giving up a lot. I mean, but some of these seem nice, right? So this 2-piece might be okay, because you're only you're giving up 2 pieces of gear, not 6. Getting some additional frostbite on your cold pulse, which is like what you have 1 cold pulse every second. With this, that's not too bad. Things like that, but I wouldn't really look past maybe like the 2-piece bonuses, because I just don't expect myself to be using all 6 pieces with how much other gear there is in the game. Overload duration, always nice. Overload CDR, always nice. This just means your guys will be basically starting to run in even faster sometimes. Extra murderous intent regen, always good. Why do it? We don't want to lose nourishment, so I don't know why this is here. It doesn't seem like a benefit. As typical with the league-based pack spirits, it's just going to be extra loot for with the league mechanic itself. The way that they make this Mist Veil kind of sound, it seems like it's going to be almost like a delirium type thing. Dispel the mist with sanity and face various random events and eventually arrive at the clock tower. I don't know. Maybe this is not what I think it is. We'll have to see. We'll know in basically, I guess, 5-6 hours when they actually release it, but we'll take it from there. What are these? Oh yeah, new pack spirits. So this is going to be just the new drop one for the league mechanic itself here. And these are going to be the, I guess the meat. Oh, these are some new damage ones as well. So lightning damage, some shock damage. Oh, so this is basically the counteract with the new hero here. So when you settle shock damage, you're getting some % life back. It shouldn't be necessary, right, to have this, but obviously if you get it, it's going to be better. It'll be good on her. We'll have to take it from there. So they did add twinightmare. It's just going to be added in like how, you know, the typical trait and confusion cards, like every other league mechanic. So for those that want to just do twinightmare all the time, which I feel like it's probably going to be worth doing, because unless they adjusted how profitable it is, it's still going to be one of the better ones to be running. They did make the adjustments to where hero relics and memories are only dropping from Black Sail now. So there is going to be a reason to be wanting to run a Black Sail deck. So you can expect me to be doing that. And that should be really, really nice. So Trial of Divinity. A new endgame mode, Trial of Divinity. Players will be able to obtain corresponding entry tickets by participating in God of War, God of Might, Goddess Hunting, and God of Machines. Combine a certain number of them to enter the Trial of Divinity. What is this? This basically sounds like... Divinity Stones. They've removed the Avarice Bounty. Oh, okay. That's weird. You get Divinity Stones, which can be rewarded for bounties, blessings from gods, and then it's the same thing you're getting from Cube of Rapacity? Because you're also getting Divinity Stones here. So I wonder if the Avarice Bounty is just turned into this Divinity Stones thing, where basically every single league mechanic you do, regardless of what it is, you'll get to do this like Trial of Divinity mode thing, or just continue to do Cube in order to get these Divinity Stones. And it's basically just going to be the same thing, but you'll be being able to do multiple league mechanics in order to get it. They did fix the bug where dying in Path of the Brave 5 on the first level made it easier for the rest of the run, which is, I guess, unfortunate, because I'm sure there were people that benefited from this, which was really nice. They fixed some things with loot dropping into wrong areas. They fixed the Dark Surge and traps, which someone found out it was broken. I'm sure it was hurting them. Apparently the Cube Season Pack Spirit wasn't working at all. Unfortunate for those that had that. Not something I had, so not something that affected me. And corrected the issue where the effect of reducing the drop quantity of Desire Crystals for Mouse Synchronization was inactive. I don't remember what that was, so let's see. We're entering the Netherrealm earlier now? Excluding the content of Chapter 4 and Chapter 5, hunters will enter. So does this mean Chapter 4 and 5 are gone now? That's nice if we're getting through the story faster. That sounds really nice. So this sounds like we're getting into the Netherrealm now. We'd be like level 40 or something. Because I think that's when you normally would finish Chapter 3. So, that's cool. The Rift gameplay, this sucks because you would typically go into that first Rift and get your like first like guaranteed unique item at like level 6 or whatever it was there. Let's see. Okay, you can no longer just Zerg rush all the zones or bosses and everything. There's like a cap of 6 deaths or whatever, probably like everything else. Treasure Trove has been added to this buffed. You don't need to hit a ton of times per second. It's same upper limit on it. It's just easier to get there. And then 3 birds, 1 stone nerfed slightly, kind of. I guess maybe that's a buff because you're getting some additional damage actually here, so that's actually good. You didn't probably need the 3 splits anyways. Frostbitten was that's kind of a buff. Well, lower overall high top end damage, but it's a good, nice, solid buff for instantly freezing everything the first time you hit them. So it's going to make clear better. Because you can get this without being frostbitten Gemma. But your overall like damage is slightly lower. That's okay. We got a buff on whatever thing earlier, Starstalker. We got like a 15% buff on Starstalker, so the 30% we're losing from here is not the end of the world. This is a pretty big nerf. Yeah, because you won't be able to shock. So, penetrating got nerfed. Unfortunate. And full defense got nerfed because you can no longer make yourself immune to damage over time. I wonder if they've removed all sources of being immune to damage over time. Because of the Rosa build. I mean, I think they said that was a bug and got nerfed anyways, but we'll see. Reap Purification. So Reap was significantly nerfed again. So Frostbitten Gemma, again, she's still going to be extremely strong. But nerfed a little bit. Same with all the minion builds that are using isomorphic arms. It's not going to affect the base attack speed. That's probably this might be better for a lot of builds, because I know a lot of builds didn't really want the damage or the damage speed nerf or the attack speed nerf from using a hammer, but they're just going to get all the extra damage and bonuses from the hammer without getting the attack speed nerfs, I guess. When barrier is gained, refresh barrier. Oh no, curtain's been nerfed. My defense tech is dead. Unfortunate. This was really strong. I will miss it. Rest in peace, curtain. Yeah. Unfortunate. Battle Trumpet wasn't really used. Well, never mind. Battle Trumpet was used. This is a small buff to it. That's okay, I guess. Rare gear adjustment. Man, there's so much stuff to go over in this. 2-1 attack block chance has been doubled, basically. So you can get block chance up a lot easier. Not that it matters, because it's not that good on anything outside of Rosa for the most part. They've increased the base numbers for everything. It's probably to get it all in line with the calculations. Triggered skill adjustments have been changed. Oh, because triggered skills don't seal mana and stuff anymore. That's fine. There's too much to go over in all this. These are for if anyone wants to go over them, they can do that, but I'll see if there's anything specific that I see that sticks out. They nerfed this early plus the skill levels staff, unfortunately. I don't remember using Dawnbreak, but this is a buff, I guess. I don't remember using this for anything, so, but it could be good. Let's see. Personally, use any of these. This is a buff. Because if you don't crit, you refresh blur when gaining blur. Yeah, this will keep you at always 100 max blur for builds that aren't crit builds. Yeah, I mean it's gonna basically be max blur for everyone, but even for crit builds, they'll be at like permanent 80 instead of permanent 100. These are gonna probably be really good with the blur changes, so that's nice. Glacier Caster Shield was buffed. It's always nice. It's not really used as much for many things, but Lone Walker boots were made even better for non-minion builds because you don't get any movement speed if you get no movement speed if you have minions. So yeah, overall, really interesting changes. Really looking forward to the new league. It's going to force everyone to kind of reevaluate every single build a bit. Things are going to be changing. Not too much, right? I mean, you're going to be able to just play if you want to just go play the same Iris build from last league or the same Frostbite and Gemma build from last league. There's going to be some minor adjustments to like the auras, things like that, but everything else is going to be the same. If the campaign is really ending in half the time that it was ending before, that's a huge positive for everyone. We'll take that. So highly looking forward to it. And yeah, if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below, and I'll be more than happy to answer them. And other than that, see you in the next one.